Welcome back, everyone, to the Arizona Diamondbacks franchise here on MLB The Show 19. As today, Season 2 is now in the books, as our Diamondbacks just lost the wild card game to the Phillies in the last episode, and today we now have the Season 2 off-season, as well as a little season recap beforehand. So here's a look at the stats. Pretty much everyone in the lineup did good. The catcher, Wellington Castillo, was solid. Pavin Smith had a pretty good rookie year. Marcus Semien was a nice addition. Moustakas was a great free agent signing. Jake Lamb played really well. David Peralta was an all-star. Ozuna had an all-star-like season. And then Nick Williams, who wasn't even a starter at the beginning of the year, was absolutely incredible down the stretch for us. So all around, all the batters did really good. No one was insane, but we had a few all-star caliber players. And then pitching, there were some question marks, especially in the rotation, but you also had guys like Robbie Ray, who were absolutely incredible. Ray ended up winning the NL Cy Young as well as the NL MVP, which, of all the people who you would have expected to win it at the beginning of the year, you would not be thinking Robbie Ray. And then not to mention, Archie Bradley won the NL Reliever of the Year, did an excellent job as the closer, sub 1.5 ERA, over 50 saves. I think he only blew like 3 saves as well, so he had a really good year. And the rest of the bullpen was solid as well. Andrew Miller was pretty good. Diego Castillo had an excellent season. Pedro Strop was a nice addition. So all around, I think this team did really well. We obviously overperformed, only winning 60 games back in Season 1, and now going up by 39 here in Season 2 is absolutely incredible. We made a few big moves in the offseason, but I expected us to be around the 500 range. So winning 99 games is absolutely incredible, and we just got unlucky. Usually 99 wins would be good enough to win the division, but with the Dodgers, who ended up winning 113 games, that'll happen. So here's a look at the league stats. Especially hitting-wise, no one was at like the absolute top, but we had a very balanced lineup, especially power-wise. Bunch of home runs, probably led all of baseball. I feel like we need to add more speed. I think we had by far the least amount of steals. No clear base stealer, no clear leadoff hitter. Nick Williams was the leadoff hitter, and he doesn't quite have the speed that you would want for a leadoff hitter. He had a great season, but as speed-wise, I think he could have done better. And then, not to mention, I think defensively we could get some better defensive players. And then the pitching, we have some young guys in the rotation. Not everyone was great. Duplantier struggled at times. Todd Woodruff was pretty good. Touki Toussaint did not have a very good year. But those guys are all young. Those guys all have time to grow. And then Taijuan Walker had a great year. And obviously Robbie Ray as well, who ended up winning the NL MVP. Luis Severino wins the AL MVP and obviously the AL Cy Young as well. He had an even better season for Robbie Ray, 20-5, 1.81 ERA, which is just ridiculous to even think about. That's absolutely crazy for a whole season. The Yankees reliever Zach Britton also wins reliever of the year, so whoever had the best starting pitcher happened to have the best relief pitcher. I don't know if that's a coincidence or not. But here's a look at the rest of the awards. I believe Robbie Ray and Archie Bradley were the only award winners, which I guess makes sense. None of our hitters, I would say, were the best at their position, and then same defensively. I thought maybe Robbie Ray or Taijuan Walker could win Silver Slugger for pitchers, but that ended up going to Miles Mikolas, who had a home run. I know Taijuan Walker had a home run, which we hit in-game. Robbie Ray might have had a home run. They're both really solid hitting pitchers, so I could definitely see Taijuan Walker, especially him, winning one in this series. So that's definitely something to keep our eye on as the final awards. Nick Castellanos wins a Silver Slugger. That's interesting. Former Tiger. And obviously postseason and World Series MVPs are yet to be named. So here's a look at the playoff bracket. We will be simulating the postseason now. And sure enough, the LA Dodgers ended up winning the World Series. And I didn't show it for some reason, but trust me, they did. No notable retirements. So here's a look at our exclusive free agents. We have 12 players who theoretically could be unrestricted free agents this offseason, which is absolutely nuts since the roster only holds 25 players. We do have 3 team options, though. The first one is Marcell Ozuna, $15 million. That will be extended, so he will be back next year. And another team option we decided to extend is third baseman Mike Moustakas. He played like an MVP the first couple months of the year, sort of fizzled out, but even so, he did have a great season for us. And for only $7.5 million to play like an all-star, borderline MVP candidate for part of the season, absolutely. And then the third and final team option, belongs to Wellington Castillo. He had a solid season, especially power-wise. The average is not great, and he definitely did have some hot and cold stretches throughout the season. However, for $5.1 million, I do think it's worth it to have him as the starting catcher, so he will be back for another season. We do need a new first base coach since our original one left. We're going after Bucky McLean. I don't believe he ended up signing. I think someone else signed. And then we're firing our farm director, Mariano McKay, and our new farm director will be D'Angelo Petty. I know he did sign with us, so welcome aboard, Mr. Petty, for about $1.3 million a season. So here's a look at all the unrestricted free agents left, and we are offering none of them contracts right now. That may seem strange. However, I'm expecting a good free agency class, and if there aren't guys we like, we'll just go after them in the open market. No big deal. Some of these guys will be back. Some of them we won't offer new contracts to. So here's a look at arbitration. 6 players are eligible. We're only giving it to 2, and they are Matt Andriese and Kelby Tomlinson, both of whom were on the MLB roster last year. And then looking at the renewable contracts, going after a bunch of guys here. Pretty much almost everyone who needed a new renewable contract ended up getting one. Our total payroll is about $74 million, which means we do have some money to play around with. Not quite as much as last year, but we were pretty much paying everyone nothing last year. This year we do have some bigger contracts. And then looking at the free agency, Mookie Betts, Jacob deGrom, Blake Trinan, James Paxton, Andrew Miller, who was on our team last year, JT Realmuto, Jock Peterson. This is a very solid class of free agents. So the first guy we're going to go after is David Peralta. He was an all-star for us last year, and I do think it makes sense for us to bring him back. We don't have many MLB-ready outfielders in the minor leagues. Maybe Kyler Murray, because he had a good year in AAA last year, but not quite sold on him quite yet. And then Jake Lamb as well. I do think we want to bring him back. Not great against lefties, but he did have an all-star caliber season last year. Lamb and Peralta are getting the exact same contracts. 2 years, $16 million with a club option for the second year. Pedro Strop had a really good season for his last year. I figured it makes sense to bring him back. 2 years, $9.6 million for him. And then the big fish is Mookie Betts. And we have money. So why not splurge a little bit? Why not go for the superstar here in Mookie? So we're going to offer him a 9-year deal, $270 million. That's about $30 a year. Player option, backloaded deal. So he'll get more money towards the end of his contract, not quite as much in the beginning. So here's a look at everyone we're offering. Obviously, before I just said, we're also going after Leury Garcia, who's a good utility player. Brian Goodwin, he could be a solid bench bat. And then some other minor leaguers here as well, such as Clement, Luis Perdomo, Trahan, and the other guy. So, boom. Mookie Betts has accepted. It says only $166.2 million. That's wrong. It is a $270 million deal, but welcome to Arizona, Mookie. That's a huge pickup. And then I want to clear up some roster spots, so we're going to be trading 3 minor leaguers to the Blue Jays for relief pitching prospect Elvis Luciano, who does have some upside and I think does have a major league future, unlike the players we did trade away. And then 3 more prospects who aren't great. We'll get his Bo Way from the Angels. Already 29 years old with only C potential, but he is a 70. He is talented. So looking at the free agency moves, JT Realmuto is a Yankee. Andrew Miller going back to the Red Sox, so he will not be with us next year. And he became a household name in Boston, so good for him, I guess. Only a 1-year deal. Maybe we try to bring him back later. So we were offered a deal from the Tigers, Wander Franco for Franklin Perez. And this is really tempting. There are huge question marks in a rotation, plus Franklin Perez is a channel legend, and after thinking about it, I decided to say no because Wander Franco is insane. However, this is something to think about, and if someone like Touki Toussaint or John Duplantier really starts to struggle, then this is a trade we could look back at. Blake Trinan is headed to New York, 3 years, about $35 million. He was with us for about 2 weeks in the 2019 season, so another former Diamondback making a move to a new team. He played with Atlanta last year. Wilson Ramos headed to the Houston Astros. I think this is a perfect move for the Astros. Get themselves another bat in their lineup, and one of the best hitting catchers in all of baseball in Wilson Ramos. As the Phillies and Brewers basically swapping Lorenzo Cain for Andrew McCutchen. Roman Quinn also headed to the Brew Crew. So not too big of a deal. Those two players are very similar. So looking at free agency now, Marcus Semien is still available about a month later. We picked him up at the trade deadline. He was pretty good, and I didn't really think we needed him anymore, but the more I thought about it, I figured maybe we could use him. Maybe we want to use someone like Pavin Smith, more of a bench bat next year. And then MLB The Show logic, Wilson Ramos, immediately being traded after getting signed. He's going to the Pirates for Corey Dickerson and some prospects. Steve Cishek headed into our division, joining the Padres. Cubs get a pair of middle infield prospects. And then now we have a Rule 5 draft. This is a very interesting opportunity for us to maybe try to get a talented player, maybe trade bait. So we are going to use this pick, and we're going to go after Lewis Brinson from the Miami Marlins. He is the definition of a bust. Huge disappointment. He had so much expectations. He was the big piece in the Christian Yelich deal, and he just has not lived up to the hype. And it's not like he's even been an okay player. He has been absolutely dreadful. So maybe we can try to turn his career around. That's the only pick we end up making. So now it's just time to simulate to arbitration meetings. We don't have too much else left to do. But first of all, MLB The Show is going to do their thing. Andrew McCutchen, after being traded to the Brewers, is immediately going to the Toronto Blue Jays. Only this game would do that. So, Matt Andriese will be getting paid about $950,000 this season. Kelby Tomlinson just over $1 million for his yearly salary. So the only renewable contract left is Braden Shipley. We're just going to give him $600,000 for this season. He's nothing crazy. So a pretty big trade here. We're trading Lewis Brinson and a pair of solid prospects to the Braves for Jose Castillo. He is a former Padre, so we've obviously played against him. I don't know if I have, but the Sim has. And he's only 25 years old. He was an All-Star last year, so I think that is a good deal. And then Ketel Marte. He did not have a great year off the bench last year. He'll get us a talented relief pitching prospect from the Twins. And then Kelby Tomlinson will get us a 27-year-old pitching prospect from the Seattle Mariners. Nothing too crazy, but I do want to clear up some roster spots, and I do think Tomlinson's a little bit too good to be playing in AAA. So you're probably wondering why I gave all those club options. You see that list of free agents next year? There were guys like Kershaw, Syndergaard, Lindor, Aaron Judge. Next free agency class is going to be absolutely stacked, so I want to have the option to not be paying guys next year. So here is a look at our schedule for season number 3, opening up at home against the San Diego Padres. Jose Castillo's former team, by the way. So here's a look at the lineup. The lineup isn't too much different. The only difference really is adding Mookie Betts. We didn't really lose anyone. Didn't add anyone other than Betts. And we're starting the same players versus righties and lefties. Maybe I want to get someone like Pavin Smith or Rob Robertson in as a platoon player. But for right now, they're both bench guys. And then the pitching rotation is the exact same. The bullpen is a little bit different with adding guys like Lucius Summers to the Major League roster. Mickey Smythe trading for Jose Castillo. So that'll end the video. What are your record predictions? I think we'll win 95 games. I don't think we'll do better. I just feel like some of the performances last year will be flukes. I think Robbie Ray, for example, will regress, and I think some of our players will as well. So I figured before we ended, we'd show the top 50 prospects because Emmett Casillas, our number 2 overall pick last year, is the number 1 prospect in baseball right now, which is really cool. So next episode will be opening day against the San Diego Padres. Hope you all enjoyed. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe.